What's going on? Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Off the Schneid. We are able to sneak in one final Best Ball Mania 4 draft before draft season is over, before it fills, really. So there won't be any overlay on the Best Ball Mania 4. So congrats to Underdog. Shout out to them for putting on a great tournament, filling it up. I know drafters, there's quite a bit of overlay. I believe on DK, there's quite a bit of overlay on their main tournaments. So yeah, congrats to Underdog for filling the Best Ball Mania 4 again. And yeah, it should be a fun year. So before we get to the draft, I'm going to do just again my quick final Best Ball Mania 4 draft for this season. Before that, I wanted to touch on, kind of give my take for the FFPC Taysom Hill fiasco that's going on right now that just kind of happened. So I'm going to pull up the Underdog screen. So for those who aren't entirely all the way caught up on the situation, obviously Taysom Hill has been listed as a tight end for the past few years. Anyone that has been playing fantasy football for the last couple of years understands that Taysom Hill can play quarterback. He will play some quarterback. He did last year. He played almost an entire season where he played quarterback. And it can happen now and again. Plus his rushing ability. Basically, you're drafting Taysom Hill, not for his capabilities as a tight end, as a pass catcher. You're drafting him in case he plays quarterback and because of his rushing upside. FFPC recently, because the New Orleans Saints are trying to game the system with an extra roster spot, they listed Taysom Hill as a quarterback on their roster. So FFPC changes his roster or his positional designation from tight end to quarterback 5 days before the NFL season starts. So over 90% of their best ball tournament is full and has been drafted already. And then they go ahead and make a major, massive change like this. It's pretty bananas. It's pretty bonkers to me. If I don't play on FFPC. If I did, I would be absolutely livid. I would lose my fucking mind and I would never play on there again. This is leading me to not want to play on FFPC because of this reason. And because, just the way that they've handled it has been pretty garbage, if you ask me. Liam Murphy has his own YouTube channel. He put out an episode with a representative, the co-founder, the co-owner, and the one that runs their social media and the day-to-day. For FFPC, he came on his channel and kind of, sounded like an absolute buffoon, in my opinion. Sounded ridiculous, contradicted himself a few times, and just didn't make sense and seemed like, he was more just automatically combative. Not that Liam is the, most, standoffish type of a guy. Like he's got, I don't know him personally, obviously, but I can tell from watching that episode and watching his channel that, he takes a hard stand and he won't back down, kind of a thing. But at the end of the day, I think he had a valid reasoning behind this one. And, it just doesn't make sense. Like he is literally a customer. Liam is literally a customer of FFPC, has drafts on the platform. And to interact with your own customer base like that was just nonsense to me. And the way that he's done it online, he talks about like, oh, people on Twitter don't matter, is quite literally what he was saying on Liam's channel. People on Twitter don't matter, but that is your client base. Twitter is, the fantasy, how big fantasy football is not literally just because of Twitter, but Twitter expands it exceptionally. It has done an amazing job of expanding the game. Best ball, dynasty, redraft, every single format in fantasy football has grown literally directly from Twitter and continues to grow from Twitter. So you're saying that you're basically your customer base doesn't matter. That's nonsense to me. So that was my kind of take on it. My 2 cents. It just doesn't make a lick of sense. And the guy sounded ridiculous, if you ask me. So that's my take on the FFPC fiasco with the Taysom Hill thing. I won't be playing on FFPC because of this. This is a little bit ridiculous. Could have been handled better, and maybe I wouldn't have been such a so hard on them. But it is what it is. Here we are. So pulled up the Underdog site here. It looks like all of their integrity checks are done, which means I didn't have a single league get canceled, which is interesting. But everything's still a little messed up here. So maybe they're still kind of going through it. These are my completed drafts, but these numbers just don't make sense. 99, but there's only 43 here. So this just doesn't make sense what the numbers are doing. Maybe there's still going to be some kickback. I know I had a league that just didn't make a lot of sense. The one right before Bradley Stalder was on the show. When this drafter drafted 11 quarterbacks. I don't know how that affected the rest of the league. I was expecting this one to get canceled, but we'll see. It was a puppy 2. That's why I drafted 101, literally expecting this to get canceled and kick back. And that $5 coming back and being an even 100. That's kind of how weird I am with some things sometimes. So 74 Best Ball Mania drafts. I'll do my 75th today in a few minutes here. And that's a half max entry. So nothing crazy. It's I've got more than enough contests going here. Total of 450-ish roughly since the start of the big board back in, what was it, January, February, something like that. Over 450 drafts. So not necessary for me to play on a place like FFPC. I'm not maxing all of these tournaments on Underdog, but there you go. A little peek behind the curtain as far as that's concerned. Right before it fills, 99.7%. I kind of wanted to wait and to be like one of the last possible drafts. Would have been interesting, especially if it went deep for all the early drafter bros. So that would be interesting, but it is what it is. I definitely just want to get it in and get it done before it fills, is essentially what it is. And we'll take it from there. So really, I was just hoping to see if another Best Ball Mania got kicked back, and then I could get 2 drafts in and get it wrapped up. I just still want to keep the same amount total, but it is what it is. So if you're in the chat, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe button if you don't mind. And then if you want to draft with me, let's get into a Best Ball Mania. So let's do it. Last Best Ball draft period, actually, that I'm going to do. So waiting on 2 people. I don't know if anyone noticed who watches the show any large amount. Got my red badge. Got my red badge recently. Woo! Good times. Multiple Scoregasms. Love the name. Don't think I've drafted with them before. Mags. I'm pretty sure I have drafted with Mags. And I believe that's it. So we'll see. ADPs are interesting. Where's Cooper Kupp? Wow, he has fallen all the way down to 16. Hey, holy moly! It must be those puppy 4 drafts pushing him down, because there's not enough volume realistically beyond that to push him down. So that's interesting. I thought Kelsey would maybe fall farther. But here we are. So player I have in mind, I'm definitely looking to get Bijan. I was trying to up my exposure for a long time, basically the last month any chance I could get Bijan that I wasn't reaching too much, I was taking him. So I'll probably be taking Bijan in this one, unless someone slips. Jefferson Chase, might as well stick to the script for the last draft. Tyreek. So it's CMC or Bijan. If CMC, watch him take Eckler, and then I'll be scrambling. Oh, man, there better not be a bunch of auto drafts here. CMC goes. I'll take Bijan. There we go. Up my exposure a little bit. It'll be interesting to see where Kelsey goes with him out this week. A lot of tight ends kind of out this week. Kelsey, Mark Andrews is probably going to play, but maybe he'll be a little bit limited. Kittle might not play. Hawkinson. Oh, clear of injury report now. That's good. Limited for Andrews. Kittle, limited. Maybe he'll play, maybe he won't. Kelsey still goes at 7. That's interesting. But yeah, final best ball draft of the year, which is crazy. I got another home league draft after this. 16 team, $300 buy-in, IDP. It's a bit of a crazy draft from the 12 hole, so that should be interesting. Coincidentally, I had a draft last night, similar 16 team, IDP. I was drafted from the 12 hole, so at least I got some experience. I can pull up the draft from last night, see where guys went, and try to get some guys that I missed out on that kind of slipped by me. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe if we get enough likes, enough chatter, I'll stream that draft, but not likely because it's very, very long. It's about 2.5 hours for the draft. So don't think I have it in me to stream that long. Anything crazy? The ultimate kick in the nuts would be for this draft to get canceled, after the season starts. That would be the ultimate kick in the nuts there. But so far, so good. Jalen Waddle goes a little early. Let's see if I can zoom in on this. There you go. There we go. Get it zoomed in a little bit. All right. Up in 2 picks. Who do we want here? Leaning Chris Olave. I'm a little too worried about Cooper Kupp, that hamstring injury. Plus, he's getting a little bit older. There's a lot of reasons to, I wasn't drafting Cooper Kupp a ton before any sort of injury history. I don't think my last draft is the place I need to, try to pick up some exposure. But Calvin Ridley's a guy that I've been trying to pick up exposure to. So no better time than right now to pick up another share of Calvin Ridley. Let's do it. He's got a good matchup week 1 against the Indianapolis Colts, who are going to be terrible this year, in my opinion. Right there with defensively, that's not true. The Rams and the Cardinals, to me, are going to be, and then Joe Burrow goes at 21. That's an interesting reach, but that's okay. Definitely could have got him at 28. So trying to get unique, I guess. No badge. I don't know if they do a ton of drafts, but that's an interesting reach for Christian McCaffrey, Joe Burrow. Might be a quarterback room. What was I babbling about? I forgot. That's all right. I have been pushing quarterbacks down lately. Maybe this will be a bring back with Trevor Lawrence. I don't think I have enough exposure to Trevor Lawrence. It's not minuscule or anything, but it's certainly not a crazy amount either. So, where would I take Cooper Cup? Where would I take Cooper Cup if he falls? I'd have to take him here at 29. Hamstring injury. Maybe he's placed on IR. Ay, ay, ay. It's hard to say because the Rams are going to be a really bad team. So that's what makes me not particularly want Cooper Cup. Do I want to take that risk with my last pick? Yeah, not really. I really don't. I really don't want to take that risk with my last pick or my last draft. I'm going to go with DK because I've taken him a ton. He's a wide receiver that I like a lot. Again, it's my last pick or my last draft. I'm probably just going to take my guys unless I want to get some exposure. Like, again, Bijan and Calvin Ridley. Those are some guys I wanted to get a little more exposure to. So it's great to take them. But a guy like DK, one of my guys, I'm just going to take him right at ADP. Opens up, deep quarterback throws. So we'll worry about that when the time comes. Mark Andrews, I'd heard somewhere, it was on the Twitterverse, so you never know. Take it with a grain of salt, and it is true that Mark Andrews does have diabetes, and supposedly he was just kind of trying to manage his diabetes before the season started. Maybe something went wrong. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how all that works. So yeah, that's something I had heard. I'm inclined to, potentially believe that. Because it just makes sense. It was an undisclosed injury. It's not like there was, a muscle strain, a pulled this, that, whatever. It was just an undisclosed injury. Makes sense. Hopefully he's all right. I do like Mark Andrews a lot. Got a fair amount of exposure to him, but that was an interesting little nugget to open up the season. But looks like he's going to be okay to play. Hopefully, practice limited. One guy that I might try to get another late share of, who was going in this area. I mean, he was going, early 40s, mid 40s in ADP when he was fully healthy. And that's Jerry Jeudy. I think, he practiced limited today. I like Jerry Jeudy regardless. So that might be a guy that I go ahead and grab on this team. Especially if the bye weeks work out. I can't take too many more week 9 bye weeks if I do want to take Jeudy. I already have Calvin Ridley. So if I was able to get Debo for some reason, I'm going to smash pick Debo here. Not likely I get him, I would imagine. But if I can, I'll smash pick him. Won't be picking Christian Kirk. So I should be all right to get Jerry Jeudy a little bit later than I have been getting him or had been getting him earlier in the season. But we'll see here. Christian Watson won't practice Wednesday. That's really concerning and frustrating and annoying, to be honest. Not something that I anticipated particularly. Wow, Deebo Samuel is really falling. I will smash pick him if he's there. Don't anticipate he will be. I could pick up Justin Herbert here. Don't mind that. Mike Williams. I could maybe get both. 53. Debo goes. Yeah, I would have really liked to have taken Deebo Samuel there. That's great value. It's a nice looking team. I'm going to take Darren Waller. Again, I'm getting my guys, get a little more exposure. I'm getting my guys this draft. Last one. Last draft of the season. Get your guys. It's get your guys season. Obviously, no one cares about reaching in this draft. Oh, there goes Justin Herbert. I would have taken Justin Herbert on the turn. I thought about him right here, but I'm going to push quarterback. I'm open up to Trevor Lawrence, Geno Smith, and Daniel Jones. So not a big deal if I miss out on Justin Herbert or any other quarterback until we get there. So can really fill up my roster. And with picking Darren Waller right here, I'm max picking 2 tight ends. That's it. I will not pick 3 tight ends, period. Not with taking, a 4th round Darren Waller, that much draft capital in a tight end. I will not pick 3 tight ends, period. Couple more picks. Deontay Johnson's on the board. There we go. Deontay Johnson's on the board for me. George Pickens is on the board for me. Another get your guy. Don't necessarily have to take a running back with Bijan. He's my anchor. Don't necessarily want Drake London with Bijan. I have enough Christian Watson shares, so I'm going to avoid him there. And I'm going to go ahead and get Pickens. Get your guy season. Plus, matches up with DK, week 17, Seattle-Pittsburgh. That's a good matchup as well. George Pickens. Opens up another quarterback. Kenny Pickett. Could be a 3 quarterback build here. But 2 tight ends. 2 tight ends for sure. That's locked up. We'll see what happens at running back, running back, wide receiver. And then, maybe it's 5 running backs or 7 wide receivers with 3 tight end or 3 quarterbacks. We'll see. But I'm only picking 2 tight ends. That's kind of non-negotiable sort of a thing. That's the max I'll be picking. Drake London, Christian Watson, Kenny Walker. I like Kenny Walker. I just didn't want him with DK. I'd rather those receivers in that game stack for week 17. And Pickens is absolutely a guy for me. I think he could move into, a top 10 wide receiver type of a, workload and role this year. I think he is extremely, extremely talented. And I'm not really sure why people want to hate. People want to hate on George Pickens for some reason. People like to say that he can't separate for God knows why. I don't particularly understand that one. Plus, he makes just unreal circus catches. So I guess if you're doing that, you don't necessarily need to, separate, I guess. But I don't see that being a problem personally. But what do I know? What do I know? I'm just super high on George Pickens, and you can't really talk me out of it. So, yeah, we'll see how that works out. There goes Trevor Lawrence. If he fell, I certainly would have scooped him up. But I wasn't going to draft him at 53 here. So, if he fell to 68, absolutely I would have been picking Trevor Lawrence, but missed out on that boat. Not a big deal. Could definitely bring in some quarterbacks later. And it's basically either wide receiver or running back here. I'm kind of leaning wide receiver to push myself into a 7 wide receiver build. If Tyler Lockett's there, I'm going to have to pull the trigger on Tyler Lockett. Or JSN. I could go either of these Seattle wide receivers and then bring in Geno Smith with the George Pickens bring back. That's a nice little game stack, that's for sure. A lot of people are targeting that game, including me. And the huge ADP drop for Tyler Lockett. That's nice, just for uniqueness. Not necessarily that this would be unique. Hard to say. I mean, Bijan rose a little bit. Calvin Ridley rose for sure. And a lot of people were, JSN and Tyler Lockett were a lot closer in ADP at one point in best ball season. So this could be a unique-ish lineup. There goes Lockett. I like Chris Godwin a ton. But if I'm taking another week 5 bye week, it's going to be JSN and not Chris Godwin in this case, in this build, in this instance. So I'm all right with that. It's either Judy or JSN. And I think I'm going to build out a Seattle, Pittsburgh. That means I got to bring in Geno, which I like. Happy to bring Geno in this team. Stack up that week 17 Seattle, Pittsburgh. I like that. I like that. I like the way this is shaping up. 77. Might bring in a David Montgomery share. Haven't picked up a David Montgomery share in a little bit, and that's part of the reason why. The other reason, I think they're kind of basically telling us that, Jahmyr Gibbs' workload is going to be limited a little bit. I think, between the tackles, the pounder between the 20s, and then on the goal line is going to be David Montgomery. I was drafting him a ton before he moved up the draft board in ADP, and I might as well get myself an extra share if he's available. I'll definitely take David Montgomery. 0% on Javonte Williams. That's not changing. I don't care what news comes out. It is what it is. I've made my stand. I'm not changing it. I'm full fading Javonte Williams. I've got tons of Miles Sanders bags. Tons. Don't need another Miles Sanders share, even though that does make sense for this team. So it's going to be David Montgomery. If he's gone, I don't know. Then I guess Miles Sanders, Rachaad White. There you go. It's Rachaad White if David Montgomery's gone. And that's the other thing. I've been picking Rachaad White an absolute ton too. So I'm going to shift here, change it up, get a David Montgomery share where I would normally 100% of the time be taking Rachaad White. Let's bring him in. David Montgomery. Love me some Rachaad White this year, though. Looks like the Twitterverse is finally coming around to Rachaad White. A lot more people talking about him. Some bigger accounts talking about him. I'm glad they're late to the party because I've been drafting Rachaad White in extreme amounts. All right, let's roll through it. Bijan Robinson, Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf, Darren Waller, George Pickens, Jackson Smith and Jigba, David Montgomery. 2, 4, 1. 2 running backs, 4 wide receivers, 1 tight end. Building out a 2 tight end construction and likely might be 5 running backs. We'll see. Maybe it'll only be 2 quarterbacks. If I go Geno Smith and I don't want to bring it back. Geno Smith and there you go. Geno Smith and Daniel Jones. That makes sense. That's what I'll be doing. That makes the most sense. Can bring it back with Van Jefferson, who I have a ton of bags of. I really, really like for that week 17 correlation. I don't need to bring in another pass catcher for the Giants, and I don't think I will. I think I'll just stack Daniel Jones with Darren Waller, and then kind of take it from there. And then have that kind of a mini stack week 17 on top of the Pittsburgh-Seattle stack that I got going already. Tons of time before I need to be drafting quarterback. Daniel Jones. I haven't, have I? It's these ADPs have shifted quite a bit recently with with this puppy 4. I didn't draft any puppy 4s. Payout's not that massive. Don't really need to. I've done so many drafts. I'm kind of good on it. A little burnt out. I got home leagues that I'm drafting, including one after this stream in an hour. So I just have not been drafting puppies, and these ADPs have really moved around. So it's kind of interesting to see this late, but yeah. Where is the Lockett drafter? Right there. So he has 2 opportunities to draft Geno. No quarterbacks. I might just have to get double tap quarterback here and kind of reach a little bit on both. 8th round reaches. I don't love, but it's not the worst thing in the world. You know, honestly, taking Daniel Jones over Deshaun Watson, that's not the end of the world to me at all. So if I look at it that way, I can sell it to myself, which is kind of what I'm doing. I'm just going to get my guys, fill out this team, try to get unique, and just build out the roster the way that I want to build it out for, week 17 type purposes. I'll be done at quarterback. I need one more tight end, not the end of the world. It's looking like a 2-6-8-2 build, most likely, depending on what happens. Maybe 2-7-7-2, something like that. But 2 quarterback, 2 tight ends, as long as nobody snipes me on Geno Smith, which I highly, highly doubt. But if they do, then good on you. I'll adapt. I'll pivot. Probably bring in Kenny Pickett. But either way, I should be done at quarterback. One more tight end. Then we'll fill out the roster with running backs and wide receivers. And then that's best ball season, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a fun one. It's been a long one. It's been a grind, but it's fun. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Mind you, winning $3 million, I would trade it directly for that, actually. So Traylon Burks practices fully. I did not see that. I knew he'd practice, but I didn't think it was a full practice today. So he'll be back at it. ADP has fallen. Now is a good time to be picking up some Traylon Burks shares. I've got a few, probably not enough. But I'm not ridiculously interested in that Tennessee offense besides Derrick Henry. I love some of the wide receivers here. I can't just dare him. I can't dare him to take Geno because then he probably will. There's just too much. He is building out of Green Bay, but that still doesn't stop him from taking Geno Smith. Looks like quarterbacks are falling a little bit. I want to take a running back is where I'm at with this. I really want to take Antonio Gibson, and I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to take a risk that Geno's going to be there. I hope that this guy doesn't snipe me. The Tyler Lockett drafter doesn't have a quarterback yet. He's clearly looking to build out a Green Bay Packer kind of stack, which means it would be prudent to bring in a Minnesota Viking, but we'll see what he does. As long as I don't get sniped right here at the 114 on Geno Smith, but there's a lot of quarterbacks available for him. He doesn't need to get Geno Smith. So hopefully he takes Deshaun Watson right here. That'll make me feel a ton better. He's got the Jets there. That brings up, who knows if people think like this when you're drafting with them. And there he goes, takes Deshaun. That's a great pick. That makes sense. Well done. And, increases the likelihood that I get Geno Smith because that's obviously what I'm building out here with the Pittsburgh-Seattle stack, DK, Jackson Smith and Jigba, George Pickens. Going to have to bring in, like I said, Van Jefferson or some kind of Ram to back up my Week 17 stack with Daniel Jones and Darren Waller. I like this team. Last one of the year. I like it so far. Get your guys. Take guys who you like. Reach a little bit if you got to. That's kind of the way I'm approaching this draft. Got to do what I got to do. Want to get the guys I want to get. And hopefully I can build out a winning squad here. I thought to myself the other day, which was way too late to do this, but ADPs are constantly shifting. Like I was just saying with the puppies coming in, moving around these ADPs. At this tier break of wide receivers, because I think this is an absolute fall off. I want to have 5 wide receivers. I'm sitting with 4. It's not the end of the world. I got my quarterback and more or less tight end situations pretty much figured out. I'm looking good at running back and wide receiver, so I'm okay right now. But I wanted to have 5 wide receivers by this tier of wide receiver because it just dries up after this. And I would love to get Marvin Mims here. You know, I stuffed my bags full of Marvin Mims when he was cheap. And then as he rose, I started taking him less. Still taking him, but taking him less because he was just a little bit less of a value. And just as it got closer to the season, just got more valuable, better position, better spot. Now he's a starter. Judy gets hurt, you know. So Tim Patrick gets hurt, all these kinds of things. And then Mims is just looking better and better. And, you know, you got to kind of reach to get him now at this point. And I got tons of bags of Marvin Mims. I'm not too worried about it right now. In my last one, if I don't get him. But if he's there on the wraparound, I'll 100% be taking Marvin Mims. This is working out perfectly for me to get Geno. I was just going to reach on him and take him with the last pick there. Now it makes me wish that I didn't reach on Daniel Jones and just took him right here. But then who do I take? Brian Robinson or Antonio Gibson anyways, right? It's kind of a wash unless I wanted to take a risk for Treylon Burks. You know, I could have done that, but I wanted to mix in a running back and kind of guarantee that I got Daniel Jones. Couple quarterbacks went after, so he could have been taken. I'll just take the reach. And like I said, I would have picked Antonio Gibson there anyways. So it's kind of a wash realistically. Love to get me some Marvin Mims on the wraparound here. I don't expect him to be there at the 125, but if he is, I will be snap picking him. For the last Off the Schneid Best Ball draft of the season. Unless I stream some battle royals, I might do that. Might do that throughout the season. Check back next week. I'll still be doing this on Wednesdays. I'll have to figure out something to talk about each week. Pretty easy to do. There's always a storyline in the NFL. There's always drama, even in the fantasy space with this whole FFPC fiasco nonsense. There's always something to talk about, so I'm not worried about that. All right, 2 more picks for Marvin Mims to fall into my lap. I'll gently lay him down into my roster like a little baby. Wonderful. Marvin Mims. The marvelous, magnificent, Mad Marvin Mims. Always happy to get another share. So 2, 3, 5, 1 so far. Done at quarterback. I'll grab one more tight end to, help out Darren Waller. Maybe it could be Tyler Higbee too to bring back that Giants mini stack. It's either going to be Van Jefferson, Tyler Higbee. If I get desperate, Tutu Atwell. I got a lot of Tutu Atwell, probably more than anyone else out there. I'm a big fan of the potential for Tutu Atwell this year, as long as, Matt Stafford's on the field. Even if Matt Stafford should go down and Stetson Bennett comes in, I don't despise that. I do not despise that. Out week 1 for Stetson Bennett. What does that mean? He's like out as in injured? I don't think he's injured. Oh, shoulder. Wow. Brett Rippon from the practice squad. Arm soreness. Not too worried, but if Matt Stafford does go down, I don't mind Stetson Bennett, and they're going to have to just throw the ball like crazy regardless of who's playing quarterback. So give me some more Tutu Atwell shares if I had to. Mind you, again, last draft, not likely I take Tutu Atwell. I'm hoping for either Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson bags are packed to the max. Maybe I'll actually purposely shift to a Tyler Higbee selection here. Unless he went, he shouldn't have. No. Okay, good. Definitely still there. Sam Laporta, that's a little early, I feel like. Juwan Johnson, that might be a little early, I feel as well. So if Tyler Higbee's here at the 140, I'm going to be taking him. Call it a day at tight end. 2, 3, 5, 2. Fill it out with running backs and wide receivers. And Bob's your uncle. These guys both have 2 tight ends. Not super likely. Kelsey and Kincaid, he's not taking another tight end. He'd be silly if he did. Andrews and Kittle, super silly if he did. 2 bully kind of bully tight end builds. Kelsey and any sort of higher pick, I would consider a bully tight end build. Let's do Higbee. Let's bring in Higbee. I like this. Now it's just running back, wide receiver for the rest of the draft. 6 more selections. So do I want to go 2, 5, 8, 2, 5, 9, 2, 2, 7, 7, 2, 2, 6, 8, 2, something like that? I'm done at tight end, done at quarterback. Just fill out running backs, wide receivers. We'll see which thins out first and where my strength lies, whether it's at tight end or running back or wide receiver, and I'll build it out accordingly. Gonna pick up some correlation here, but I already have a fair amount. Realistically, I'm correlated with both my quarterbacks, game stack for week 17. Realistically, there's not, another San Francisco 49er that I want to bring back for week 17. So that's not a big deal. Same thing with Dallas. Unless I want to bring in a Hunter Lipke share, which I might. We'll see. He's potentially the goal line back for Dallas. He's made this team. He looked great in the 3rd preseason game. Ezekiel Elliott scored double-digit touchdowns last year. You think Tony Pollard's a between the tackles goal line back? I know that Hunter Lipke is. So I might sprinkle that in there. Gives me a little correlation as well. Won't be taking Algier. Won't be taking Ezekiel Elliott. It's either Gainwell or Rashawn Johnson for me. And it's going to be Rashawn Johnson to bring back the Bijan Robinson selection for week 17. Plus, rookie running back. If he earns that role towards the end of the season, I obviously don't need him for the first, 9 weeks, essentially. Won't particularly need Rashawn Johnson. So if he comes on late and he ends up being a starter by the end of the year, especially in week 17 against Bijan Robinson, wheels up a little bit. So looks like I'm getting pretty strong at running back. Wide receivers are in an okay spot too, that's for sure. Don't need a ton more correlation. I certainly don't need to force it unless it makes absolute sense to do so. I'll just be picking kind of best player available realistically. Keep an eye on bye weeks, but that's perfectly fine. Not an overlapping one at all at running back yet. Couple week 5, couple week 9. So I should avoid week 9 and 5 for my wide receivers, unless there's someone I just can't pass up, which no one really comes to mind off the top of my head at wide receiver that I have to have. So yeah, not too worried about that. All right. Kenny Pickett. kind of get your guys season in this whole draft. It seems like a lot of guys are just picking. We're seeing some guys fall, is what I should say. We're seeing some players fall that maybe should, maybe shouldn't. That Cooper Kupp slide is really interesting to me. Last I had drafted, I think he was still in the top 10, which was like 2 days ago or something like that. These puppies just getting drafted like en masse just push that ADP outside the top 10. He's at 16 right now. That's a little shocking to me. I didn't quite expect that. I know he's missing, this week for sure, may go on the IR. It's a hamstring. If he goes on the IR, that's a concern, but he also should come back healthy after that. So I don't know, but this team is going to be a mess anyways. So then what happens? If the Rams are one of the worst teams in the NFL, which is absolutely in play for the LA Rams, then what happens with Cooper Kupp? Do they trade him? I kind of doubt it, but maybe they look to move him. I don't know. I really don't know. That's a weird slide all the way down outside the top 10. He was getting drafted in some leagues like second overall, quite literally. Second, third overall. Some people were taking him earlier in best ball season. I wasn't particularly. I do have a couple shares. I probably have like 5% Cooper Kupp. I could tell you exactly in a second here. As soon as I make these two or make this one pick, I'll shoot over and see what I'm at for Cooper Kupp. Doesn't look like Kendre Miller is going to play week 1. Not that I really care about that for this this team. Don't want to take Curtis Samuel on this team. I could bring in Alec Pierce. I don't mind that. Big play threat. Tank Dell. Yeah, I think I'm going to go Alec Pierce here. Don't have a ton of shares. I don't mind that. All right, let's check on the Cooper Kupp exposure. Mind you, this is all fucking messed up here. This is all messed up. So 292, there should be 350 roughly here. So I don't think this is going to show everything, obviously. 6.2% Kupp. Let's see what I'm at for Best Ball Mania. 10% Kupp in Best Ball Mania. Ugh. Not something I love to see. Any pit bulls? Whoops. Nope, no pit bulls, but I have 3, not 2, so hard to say. Dalmatians, none. Perfect. So a little more exposure than I thought, and then I would like as well in Best Ball Mania, but not a live or die take, and I certainly wasn't taking them top, 3. I would take him 4th overall, early in best ball, draft season. And I would take him, anywhere else that made sense around that. But 10%, not the end of the world. Certainly not the end of the world, but not exactly happy with that either, if I'm being honest with you. If I could squeak 1 or 2 Cooper Kupp teams into advancing, then I would be optimistic. I'll say that. But good luck with your first round pick isn't really playing for however long. We'll see. We will see. So running backs are getting pretty thin. I'm thinking I'm going to bring in Hunter Lipke in this one, which also makes me want to take 6 running backs. And then I'm going to go 8 wide receivers. Just don't know if I can trust this Indianapolis backfield or kind of team in general, period. DPJ? No. Rondale Moore? Not really playing in 3 wide receiver sets. Are they going to throw the ball a ton anyways? Maybe. Don't think I need to force anything. Let's go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Get your guys. Not that he's my guy, but this is what I think makes the most sense for this team. I'm going to bring in Clyde Edwards-Helaire and then Hunter Lipke for my running backs. And then wide receivers. I'll be bringing in probably Kendrick Bourne. I feel like. Where is he risen to? There he is. I'll probably bring in a Kendrick Bourne. Don't love it with the week 11. You know, when I take guys this late, I want them to spike in and have opportunities together to both spike into lineups. Shouldn't be the end of the world because obviously the rest of my wide receivers are playing that week, so that offsets that concern, right? So I could absolutely be taking Kendrick Bourne here, and I think I probably will. And then that takes Josh Downs and Mac Hollins out of the equation for me. I could definitely take Deontay Hardy. I really don't mind that. I could take Calvin Austin. Don't despise that. Yeah, probably do something like that. Greg Dortch. I don't despise that pick either. He could be a late spike guy. We've seen him, have 10 targets in a game more than once last season. That team is terrible, but Josh Dobbs throwing the ball, don't entirely trust that. Maybe when Clayton Tune comes in, he might be looking to dink and dunk a little bit. Maybe Michael Wilson could be a guy. That might be something I look at. Chase Claypool. Maybe I just throw in a Chase Claypool dart here. Mind you, I already have Rashawn. I don't need it. Wow, super falling Donovan Peoples-Jones. I really don't hate him as much as other people do, clearly. I might have to take DPJ with this much value. I'm not particularly in love with the bye week overlapping, but it's really not the end of the world. It's really, really not at all. So this far past ADP for DPJ gets a lot more unique when you're getting them 20 points past an ADP. Yeah, I kind of have to take Peoples-Jones there. And I'll probably be taking Kendrick Bourne and then Hunter Lipke to wrap up this roster, get myself a little more correlation with David Montgomery there. Yeah, round it out with just a tiny bit more correlation and what I think could be a goal line back for this team. Not the first time on this channel I've talked about Hunter Lipke. So I think he looked really, really good in that third preseason game. Pretty prolific career at North Dakota State. 6'1", 235, ran a 4.5. Should have been drafted, 7th round, I thought. But he basically got the contract of a 5th rounder as well. So that's something people don't exactly choose to recognize sometimes. But take a look at the guaranteed money and the contract that these undrafted free agents get. A lot of them are more lucrative than the guys that got drafted, which is interesting. But that's just what happens. That's how it goes. And Hunter Lipke was one of those guys this year. So we're going to bring in Kendrick Bourne. I have not taken near enough shares of this guy, and I'm going to do it in my last draft. That's that. My last draft, I'm taking Kendrick Bourne. I'm drafting him for what he did in 2021. And that team seems like a bit of a mess right now. He's always been pretty consistent back to his San Francisco days. Give me a little bit of Kendrick Bourne. Need a little more Kendrick Bourne in my life. So there you go. Got a half hour before my final home league draft. 16 teams, $300 buy-in, IDP, punt and kick return yards. It's good times. $2,000, payout for first place. It's nice if I can win one. 16 teams though, it certainly is not easy. It is not easy. Zach Ertz, I think Zach Ertz has to get traded. I don't particularly ever understand this pick here. 32 years old, coming off a torn ACL. I have 0% Zach Ertz, and I don't regret that one bit. But he might get traded. I think he should and probably will. They need to blow up that entire team. Anyone that's worth anything, any kind of draft pick, trade them and get some draft capital. That's what I think the Cardinals should do. Not literally anyone and everyone, but guys like Zach Ertz, absolutely. If you can get a 5th round pick for Zach Ertz, 6th round pick, 7th round pick, anything. If I can get anything for Zach Ertz in a trade, I'm doing it if I'm the Arizona Cardinals. Same with James Conner. I'm trading James Conner for anything. Obviously, I'm not saying I'll just take anything for a guy like James Conner, but 4th, 5th, 4th for sure. I don't think you get a 4th, but 5th, 6th for James Conner. Yep. I would take that for sure. Absolutely. Get as much draft capital as you can. Hopefully a quarterback like Caleb Williams doesn't just stay in school to avoid coming to your program, which came out on Twitter, I think today or yesterday. Caleb Williams' dad saying he might just stay at USC if he's going to get drafted to a team where he doesn't like the situation. That was the quote, AKA the Arizona Cardinals. So that's what it sounds like to me. But we'll see what happens on that one. Baker Mayfield, I love that last round pick. I'm a fan of that. 3 quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Sam Howell, and Baker Mayfield. Don't despise that strategy. I really don't. I like all 3 guys, actually. Even, yes, Baker Mayfield. Give me Baker Mayfield over Jimmy Garoppolo every day. Twice on Sundays. Hunter Lipke finished this thing out. And that is the last draft of the best ball season for Off the Schneid. It's been a good season. It's been fun. We'll roll through the team here. First round, I went with 5th overall Bijan Robinson, 20th overall Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf, Darren Waller, George Pickens, Jackson Smith-Njigba, David Montgomery, Daniel Jones, Antonio Gibson, Geno Smith, Marvin Mims, Tyler Higbee, Roschon Johnson, Alec Pierce, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Kendrick Bourne, and Hunter Lipke. I got 3 guys with hyphenated last names. That's got to be good, right? That's got to be a good thing, right? I got Edwards-Helaire, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Peoples-Jones. That's got to be good for the team. That's got to be unique, right? That's got to be what's unique about this squad. Mind you, Kendrick Bourne, that late Peoples-Jones, right? Falling Marvin Mims a little bit considering his new ADP. I think this has got to be a unique team. Reached on Darren Waller a little bit, falling Higbee. Hunter Lipke, that's got to be unique right there. This ADP might be there just because I took him 2 or 3 times, whatever I did. So, yeah, I like this little team. I got some correlation. My quarterbacks are correlated. Daniel Jones with Waller and then Tyler Higbee. Week 17, Geno Smith. I got Smith-Njigba, DK Metcalf, and then George Pickens. Mini stacks, Hunter Lipke and David Montgomery, Roschon Johnson and Bijan Robinson. I hope this team goes deep, and then it'll be interesting because it was drafted so late. One of the last teams drafted, I think, pretty much possible. Let's see where we're at for this thing to fill. 99.7 now. Little less than 2,000 entries left. 0 canceled teams for me, looks like, but I think they're still working through it because these numbers keep changing constantly. I think they're still going through their integrity checks on Underdog, which I'm happy they do. So not a big deal, but it's a little bit late. And then I kind of have to, you get some extra, bucks in your account that you thought would be a best ball, team draft, whatever. But there you go. That's it. So I got, that's the last draft, live draft for Off the Schneid in this off season. We'll be back for drafting. I'll be back next week on Wednesday, same regular time at 7 p.m., 9 p.m. in the East, talking about some redraft stuff. But for best ball drafting, next time we'll be doing some best ball, unless I do some battle royales, which I might mix in my weekly, streams, my Wednesday stream. I'll probably do that actually, is mix in some battle royales. Those look fun. I got into, I think 20 or so, 10 maybe. Everything's kind of mixed up on Underdog right now, so it's hard to tell. But those are fun. I'll probably mix that into my weekly. Like I said, it's been a fun off season. Come back next week. We'll do some more chatting, maybe some more drafting on battle royales. Shout out to Underdog for everything they do, filling the Best Ball Mania. That's awesome. Good times. Half a max entry for me, 75 entries. 75th draft was tonight. Like we always say, Off the Schneid, if you're afraid to be wrong, you'll never be right. Hopefully tonight I was right. Hopefully I'll bank a big tournament and we'll go far with this one. But hit that like button on your way out, and we'll see you next week for the